Hello, 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 and welcome back. So, I've been continuing to work on codename Kite Flier, and it's been going a little bit slow because I started at full sail here at the beginning of January. So, I haven't been able to do much work, but what I have done is pretty interesting, and I'll go ahead and show that to you. Well, it's interesting for me as a first time user. But originally, we had the game and it would just start in where you were automatically playing. There was no menu, and there was no obstacles in the air. So what we've done, if we hit play now, you'll see this bird flies across, this one goes across the other way. Stationary clouds and trees, and the cloud is kind of doing its animation. And then we can click play, and it drops us into the game here. And what you'll notice that's different right away is that the trees are not coming automatically. Before I had it set to where the trees were spawning once every 600 frames, and I wanted to have more variation than that, so I ended up making it every 600 frames there's a 70% chance that a tree will spawn. So there is times when you'll have no trees at all. And the same goes for the birds. I believe the birds coming from the right actually spawn more often than the ones coming from the left. And the reason I did that is because the birds coming from the left actually fly slower because they're moving with the kite as opposed to towards it while the kite's flying towards it. So if I let those slow birds keep piling up, then there was really no escape up above. And of course there is still that ceiling right here. Oh, I don't know if we'll make it past that bird. Oof. It's exciting. So the trees are still random heights. I still haven't added any more trees, any different tree graphics or cloud graphics, so it's still the same ones. But I hope to work on that next, is adding more graphics to it. Another thing you'll notice is before the current time and best time are really small here in this corner, and I moved them down to the grass so they could be seen easier. And at the same time, it didn't really help. It works well on the computer, but on the iPhone, for some reason, the text is still really tiny. And the same goes for the play and restart buttons. It's really tiny. The other change I did was with the clouds. Initially, those spawned randomly at a certain is it X? No, it's Y, at the Y axis. And, or no, it is X. Is X up and down? I don't know. Anyway, the axis, the vertical axis, there we go. It spawned between 2 and 5. So there's only 3 positions that the clouds could spawn on, which meant that they were all coming in on the same line, which was not the nicest thing in the world. So what we did was I actually did a random number generator from 0 to 1,000 and then placed that as a decimal behind between the 2 and 5. So it just gives it a lot more kind of opportunities for the clouds to be at different heights. Whoops. Oh, and there you go. We crashed. So I've had some games where I can go a minute and a half and I'll get to a point where there's a tree that's too tall with birds coming from both directions, and it's, there's no way around it, which is kind of frustrating, but I've only had that maybe a handful of times. And then more often than not, I've had games where, I played 10 to 15 minutes without crashing into anything. So I think it's hard to find a balance there, because if I add too many obstacles in the air, then the games would end too soon. And if I take away any to make the games last it longer than that minute, then the end where it takes 15 minutes sometimes, then would take, an hour. There'd be no challenge. So as it is right now, it's just a really fun game to play while you're laying in bed trying to fall asleep, because the music is really ambient and there's not a lot of mental activity going on, so you're not using your brain to like really fire off, and which keeps you awake. So instead, you're slowly relaxing to the music. The kite's just flying around with the wind, and it helps me fall asleep, it really easily. So the next step is actually to have a menu button in the actual game while you're playing it, because you need to be able to hit pause or quit or something while you're playing, or to go back to the main menu. And after that, hopefully have this menu be a little bit bigger so we can have sound set. I would like to have difficulty settings, or maybe you can turn off the flying obstacles so there's only trees, which would be more for if you have your kids playing and they're not, they're just playing it because they think it's cool, not necessarily because they want to be dodging lots of things. So after I get the menu done, that's when I'll go back and I'll look at all the graphics. And like I said, I just need, really, I'm happy with everything except for the kite animation. The number of trees, I'd like to have different types of trees, like maybe pines or whatever. I'd like to have them actually be different sizes as opposed to just cranking the height on them. And I'd like to have more variations for the clouds. So that's what we'll work on going forward, and I will make another video when I get to that point. So thanks for checking it out again, guys. I really appreciate it.